The Technique Series is brought to you by Barbell Logic Online Coaching. Did you know that you can get a 100% free form check from one of our expert strength coaches? Seriously, absolutely 100% free. No credit card needed, no questions asked. Just go to barbellogic.com/technique and sign up for the free Barbell Logic experience now. Do that right now and then enjoy the show.
Welcome to Barbell Logic. Rewind.
This is the Barbell Logic podcast. I'm Scott Hambrick, and this is Matt Reynolds as always. And today we're going to talk about the deadlift. I know we say the squat's the king of the lifts, but man, the deadlift is darn good. It ain't the queen of the lifts, but it's a close second.
I actually think it's probably the truest test of strength.
Yeah, I think so.
The deadlift is the truest test of strength. It's
everybody can do it. Elderly, it's so good. Yeah, the deadlift, it's, like you said, it's probably the best true test of strength.
Yeah.
And everybody can, almost every single person can do it.
The deadlift, it's probably got less to do with anthropometry than anything else, if you do a conventional deadlift, right? Mm-hmm. And, you know, certainly there are longer-legged lifters that have sort of a higher fulcrum there up at the hip, have a little better leverages for the deadlift. Longer-legged people tend to also have long arms, so if their lockout a little, you know, closer to the knees. But in general, deadlifts are you know, it's a pretty even playing field with deadlifts. Yeah. That's certainly not the case with squat. Long femored people versus short femored people, it's just so much less moment for those shorter femored people. So deadlift, man, John Paul Sigmarsson said, there's no reason to live if you can't deadlift.
Right.
And telling enough, the guy died deadlifting.
Right.
Had massive cardiac event deadlifting a few years later and died.
But you're not going to do that.
I think the first thing to do, we can talk about all the advantages and the musculature that works, and we can probably do that as we go. But let's talk about, for those of you guys who are listening, how to actually pull the deadlift first. Let's go through this 5-step program. So the first thing we do is what step? Let's do step one.
Step one, you take a fairly narrow stance with your shins 1 inch from the bar.
Exactly right. So you walk forward till your shins are 1 inch from the bar. Your shins are totally neutral. You don't lock your knees and make your shins go backwards. But with neutral shins, you walk forward till your shins are 1 inch from the bar. And that puts the bar where?
It's right over your midfoot.
Okay, so from step one, once you've established that you're 1 inch from the bar and the bar is directly over your midfoot, you don't get to take a step, not even a little tiny step. You don't get to move your feet at all.
Or the bar.
And you don't get to roll the bar at all.
Yep.
At all, no matter what. If you do, we got to start this thing over. And so we're really strict about that as we're teaching people the deadlift setup. So step one, walk forward till your shins are 1 inch from the bar. Step two, without moving the bar, you hump over and grab the bar with your hands right outside your legs. That's right. So you just grip the bar just outside your legs. We're going to start with a double overhand grip.
Yep.
Everybody should take a double overhand grip because the deadlift is, while it is a full body lift, it's certainly a back strength lift. Hamstrings, ass, all that fun stuff. Is that the correct muscle group from a physiological standpoint? Mm-hmm. That's the way it's taught in A&P. The glutes. It is also a grip exercise. And so we want to work the grip as much as we can until the grip becomes a limiting factor, at which point we'll talk about changing the grip.
What's your double overhand PR?
I think I've done 495.
That makes me angry.
And my hands aren't very big. I'll tell you what's funny. All the strength in my hands are in my thumb, index finger, and middle finger.
Well, yeah, nobody's like, hey, man, I got strong pinkies.
Well, I mean, except that even if I do like the captains of crush grippers,
right.
I actually drop my pinky off.
Don't even use it.
Don't use it at all.
It's just I
have
like
a little dwarf pinky. Look at my little dwarf pinky.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
This was like a 7-year-old, like my 7-year-old daughter.
It's one of those like vestigial organs, like the appendix or something.
Yeah, you're like, I didn't need that. Yeah. If I ever like actually needed to, there was a movie, a Tarantino movie, where they cut a guy's pinky off. 4 Rooms, I think, is the name of that movie. It's one of his early movies, like before Reservoir Dogs and stuff, I think. And can't remember. I think he's the one that gets his pinky cut off. They get in a bet, and the guy's got a butcher knife, and he takes the guy's pinky off. But anyway, you don't really need it. So I double overhand up to I double overhand up to 405. That's typically what I do on a workout. And then when I get to 405, I have to switch the grip. I guess we can talk about the grip now. So the grip, you really have 2 options with your grip.
You got 3.
You have 3 options with a grip?
Sure you do.
After the double overhand, or are you counting the double overhand?
I'm counting the double overhand.
Yeah, you got double overhand, which everybody should use.
In the beginning.
And for most of you in the beginning, the vast majority of you in the beginning, you'll be able to use double overhand grip for all of your deadlift sets.
Yep.
Because you won't be strong enough yet to open up your hand. A double overhand grip, for those of you guys watching on the camera, if this is the bar, you're just going to grab, just like you normally would.
If you jump up and grab the monkey bars,
you're going to grab it exactly right. For most people, the thumb will actually be on top of the index finger a little bit on a normal double overhand grip. So the thumb is on top of the index finger.
You can make a fist around the bar.
Correct. Now, we have 2 options when that doesn't work anymore. And the reason that doesn't work is because the bar spins. And so the bar is going to spin away from, it's going to roll away from my fingers and open up my hands, roll down into the tips of my fingers and fall out when it gets really, really heavy.
Yeah, you can feel it, man. When it starts to, the first time you pick up a heavy one, it starts to unroll your hands. It's panic-inducing. It's awesome.
And so at that point, most people go to an alternate grip, which is one hand supinated and one hand pronated. So one underhand, one overhand. It doesn't matter which is which, right? And that works pretty well because the bar wants to roll one direction, and on the other hand, the bar wants to roll the other direction, so they cancel each other out, and it doesn't roll.
Yep.
The downside of that is what?
Well, it's hard to keep that supinated hand. It's hard to keep this bar on the supinated hand side on the shins. You tend to have like a helicoptering motion, and we're at some, it's asymmetrical. So we're at some risk of some injury, some muscle avulsions.
Yeah, for sure.
That.
Yep. So it's probably a little more dangerous. It's obviously not symmetrical.
But I think that for most mortals, they're not in any real danger of a bicep tear or anything
probably
like
not.
that.
I don't know that I've ever heard of a bicep tear for under 500 pounds. I don't even know if I've heard of a bicep tear under 600 pounds. I'm sure there are some.
Yeah, some elderly people maybe could, but I don't think that's going to be a problem for most people. So, that's probably the general purpose grip that most people will use, and the other one would be the hook grip that
the hook grip. So again, for those of you guys that have this on camera, it's what I do is on the hook grip, I would grab the bar with my thumb first. Yep. It looks just like a double overhand grip from the front. You can't really tell the difference, but what you do is you grab the bar with your thumb first, and then you grab your thumb with your middle and index finger. You got to get it with both. If you just get the index finger, it's not going to work. So you're going to grab the thumbnail with your middle finger. And what that will do is that it will create some friction in the hand, and it just locks in place and doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, your thumb cams over the bar, and you get to hold your thumb instead of the bar, so the rotation of the bar doesn't really matter.
That's exactly
You're able to hold that thumb, so you don't have to overcome the torque. It's strong. People pull, 7, 8 or more with the hook grip. It could be a challenge for people with small hands. Patrick Yeomans pulled a big deadlift at the meet and got that thing up. Gosh, he was 2 inches from lockout.
Yep.
And Patrick's got smaller hands.
He's got really small hands. Because I have small hands, and his fingers came up to my last knuckle line.
Yeah.
And he said, "What am I going to do?" And I said, "Well, if you go to your third and you pull it again, it comes out. You're in trouble."
Transplant.
That's right.
Hand augmentation.
Oddly enough, we switched him at the meet from hook grip to alternate grip. I said, "When was the last time you alternate gripped?" And he said, "Never." I said, "Well, what are you going to do? It's at a meet." I said, "It'll feel weird, and just pull it. Don't stop pulling." So he did, and he got his last deadlift, which was good. So small hands, females have a hard time with that, obviously, because they have small hands typically.
Yeah, and so the ladies bar, you don't see Rogue sells this Bella bar, and there's these 35-pound or what are they, 15-kilo bars? You see them out there,
33-pound, 15 kilo. Right?
And it's really more about the diameter of the bar than it is the weight on the bar. So that's really why we use a ladies bar when we do,
because
they can
on a clean and a snatch, in a snatch, you have to hook.
Yep.
You have to go double overhand. If you go double overhand, it's heavy. It's going to open your hand up. So when a heavy clean or snatch must be hook gripped.
Yep.
And if it must be hook gripped, then you take an enormous amount of the population out of the potential of hook gripping. If you use a full, 29 millimeter bar, they can't hook. By the way, I have a hard time hooking a 29 millimeter bar. It's another reason why I like deadlifting with a 28.5, 28, 27. So deadlift bar, those things are way easier to hook grip. Now, the downside to a hook grip,
because the circumference of the bar
is smaller,
is pi times diameter.
That's exactly right.
So, pi is 3 and change.
Yep.
So you add, for every millimeter in diameter of that bar that you go up, the circumference goes up over 3 millimeters. It's a big deal. So it's a 3x deal.
Correct.
And,
it makes a big deal if you're close anyway. The downside for most people with hook is that it hurts really bad.
Yeah, it sucks. I won't do it.
I've converted because I don't want to tear a bicep.
Right.
I've converted the last couple of years. So,
and I know I'm never going to pull heavy enough to really worry about
which
it,
is
so
fine.
I don't do it.
So, I'm going to remind you of this conversation when you're in the hospital.
Right.
So you can hook. What I would suggest if you're learning the hook, when you decide I'm going to make the decision to start hook gripping, I would actually do all of your warm-ups with the hook first. So let's say you can deadlift to that point. Let's say you can deadlift 365 for a set of 5.
So wait, man, it's really not about learning it. It's about getting acclimated to how bad
It's acclimated to how bad it hurts. And it it's just like anything else. You'll build some callus there and it'll kind of deaden the nerve a little bit.
You'll create nerve damage under your thumbnail.
That's right.
And you won't be able to feel it anymore.
And then So what I have people do is, if you're going to deadlift 365 for a set of 5, you're going to try to hook grip it. What we're going to do is we're going to do 135 for a set of 5 with the hook grip. Probably 225 for a set of 5 with the hook grip. Maybe we go 275 with the hook grip for a couple. And then just go ahead and do your 315 alternate grip and your 365 alternate grip. And then the next time you're going to go up and do a little heavier than 275 with the hook grip. Right. And that really about 4 or 5 sessions will tend to get you to a point where you can hook grip just about anything. It's still not going to feel very good for a while. Right. But I tell you what, once that hook grip bites, you'll understand. And it actually reduces the range of motion just a little bit.
Yeah.
You can carry the bar a little lower in your hands than you do on an alternate. When you turn that hand, and you get that supination.
Yeah, when you rotate your forearm, it actually shortens your arm.
It shortens your arm a little bit.
It's like when you twist a rope up, that thing gets short. As more you twist it, it gets shorter.
Yeah, that's a good.
And then also with the hook grip, we actually get to open our hand just a little bit. So I think with the hook grip is double overhand, but then you hook it, and then your hand's actually a little more open than it would be with that ball back grip that you do with the double overhand. So you pick up a 1/4 inch there, you pick up 1/8 of an inch by not supinating. Yeah, it's worth it.
That's good. By the way, for those of you that deadlift or even do pull-ups or chin-ups or things like that, and you tend to tear calluses all the time, you're putting the bar too deep in your hand. The bar should sit right on the pad. Is that what that's called? Of the
Yeah, I'll call it like you're a dog.
Like I'm a dog?
The pad of your palm,
front
paw there.
Right, up by your fingers. So again, just like kind of right on top of your knuckles there. That's actually where you should set the bar. What most people do when they're trying to get a really good grip is they set it deep into their palm.
Seems right?
Which seems right. And then the very first thing it does, it rolls or shifts down, and it'll grab those calluses and rip those calluses open. So if you're tearing calluses, just set it on the pad, then wrap your hand around and you'll be fine.
I press those yellow calluses right onto the bar and then close my hand around it. And it's easy.
That's exactly what I do too. Put your callus directly on the bar. Don't let the bar go up in the soft part of the palm of your hand and slide down to those calluses. And so,
what about straps, bro?
Yeah, so I'm not a fan of straps until it's really heavy and or you're doing a fair amount of volume. If you start doing multiple sets of 5 as we get into in intermediate programming, then certainly adding some straps is okay. Adding straps all the time, I don't think is okay.
No.
I use them for rack pulls. If somebody rack pulls really heavy.
Our deals in rack pulls or multiple sets of 5. So for me, the rule is it going to be in your hands a lot?
Right.
So when you pull a set of 5, you've got it off the ground, you lock it out, you set it back down, then it's not in your hand. The weight's not in your hand. You can kind of reset your grip. RDLs, you unrack it, and it's in your hand for like 45 seconds or something like that, and it's heavy. So it's great for that. And then rack pulls often take so long to break off the darn pins that your hand will unwind.
Well, and once you get good at rack pulls, a lot of times you're pulling a lot more than what you can actually deadlift. And so
you may not want to hook it. Like if you pull 500, you may rack pull 555. Ugh.
That could be difficult. So,
don't buy, if you're a dude, don't buy straps at all until you can pull 405. Don't even buy them. Don't have them in the building.
Again, remember, you just asked me, I have small hands and I can double overhand 405 on my worst day of the year. And I've double overhand almost 500 pounds. So
with those dainty hands. Yeah, my double overhand PR is 405, which I'm quite proud of.
Yeah, I mean, that's a solid double overhand, no hook, and you definitely shouldn't touch straps. If you deadlift less than 4
and so when every time I pick up a 45-pound plate, I pinch it.
Yeah, me too.
Because I'm working on that grip. I pinch that plate. I don't wrap my fingers around the lip.
And you've got the big competition rogue plates. So you'll grab a 55-pound rogue and you'll pinch it and hold it. By the way, there's a really good video. I think it was Klokov made a few years ago. I say a few years ago, it may have been 10 years ago. So that's probably 6 or 7 years ago of him pinch flipping. You ever pinch flip plates? So you start with like a 15 or something, right? And you take it, you pinch it, and you throw it up in the air with one hand, and then you catch it in a pinch grip. And then after you can do the 15, a bunch of times you move to the 25. And after you do the 25, 35. It's the only thing good the 35s.
Right.
And then the 45. And then eventually you get to that 25-kilo plate, the 55-pound plate. And he's got a video of him taking a 55-pound plate with one hand and flipping it up in the air and catching it with one hand, flipping it up in the air and catching it with one hand. And so,
or you take 2 45s, put the dish in.
That's
pinch them.
2 45s is hard.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly
you can do 2 45s. We'll talk about you on the podcast. 2 25s is a pretty good. You take 2 25 iron plates, put it so that the lips face in, pinch. So that's 50 pounds. Pick it up and hold it, and just do a hold as long as you can. That pinch grip works pretty good. I actually think that carries over better than like a sort of Captain's Crush.
Yeah, I do too.
Gripper. I think that's kind of a circus.
The lever on I guess these are the flexors of the fingers.
Yep.
Is so long when you do the pinch. The Captain's Crunch, you can get it up close to that joint and really bear down on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's good. So that's first two steps. So first step is 1 inch. We're going to take our stance 1 inch from the bar. Scott, we kind of breeze through it, but with a narrow grip or a narrow stance, your stance is going to be significantly more narrow than you're going to take on a squat or on a press. The Finns, I'm not telling you to do this, but the Finnish guys who are good deadlifters, they often deadlift with their heels touching each other.
Yeah.
And again, I wouldn't suggest that, but for me, I deadlift with my heels about 5 inches apart.
No.
3 inches apart?
3.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's some videos on Brett McKay on his Instagram, deadlifting man, and he's just like
pretty close.
Tricycle stance. Like it's really close.
Yeah, we're trying to, there's a moment arm game we're playing there, right? We're taking some of that moment off the sagittal side plane. And when we get bow-legged, like I'm using air quotes, bow-legged, we push our knees out. We can take some of that moment off of the side plane, put it on the frontal plane, brings the hips a little closer to the bar, and we start playing that competition game. And we've talked about that in the previous talks about squat and bench press and press. And so
let's just use our adductors.
Let's just use our adductors. Let's just use our abductors, abductors. Hold the femur in external rotation, and the knees are abducted out. And it lets the adductors, adductors, the inside of your thigh, contribute to hip extension. And so again, because one of our criteria is we want to use the most muscle mass possible, we always want to push our knees out. So let's go to step 3. So step 1, our stance is 1 inch from the bar.
Yep.
With a close stance. Stance pretty close together. Step 2, we're going to grab just outside our legs, which for almost everybody is going to put your hands right where the knurl starts. Now, if you're a great big boy, you're 330, you weigh 330 pounds, untrained, and you weigh 300 pounds or 350 pounds or 400 pounds, you're going to have to take a little wider stance just because your belly and your midsection is going to be in the way. But essentially, we want our arms hanging straight down on a deadlift, right? We don't want any, so we want our arms are going to be totally vertical from our shoulders when we stand up. So that's kind of where we want to set it.
Yeah, if we did a snatch grip deadlift, our range of motion would be way, way longer.
Correct.
So we like those straight arms.
Yeah, snatch grip is going to artificially shorten the arms. And I want my arms to be as long as possible. And so I take that grip just outside my legs. And then the third step is without moving the bar, which is where most people screw this up. The bar's staying where it is, right over the middle of the foot. I'm going to bend my knees and shove my shins forward until the shins touch the bar. And I'm going to stop. I'm not going to keep shoving them forward any further. I'm not going to roll the bar at all. By the way, if you're a coach or you just have a workout partner, if the weight plates have a logo on them, like if they say Rogue, the easy thing to do is just watch the word. If the word Rogue rotates, it moved.
Yep.
That's easier to see than the bar itself. And so you kind of watch those plates. Or if you're videoing yourself in the side after you get done with your set, look at it. Step 3, shins forward till they touch the bar, and then knees out. We're going to push our knees out hard until they touch really the crook of our elbows. Now, think about this. If your stance
out means apart,
to
bow-legged.
the sides, like you're bow-legged. But again, we've talked about cues.
Yep.
And so bow-legged is a term I use as kind of an overcorrection cue. Like, I get what you're saying. I want some angle on the shin going out to the knee and then back in. And so it's...
Well, what is it? Like knock-kneed is the opposite of that.
Yeah, it's knock-kneed. And we're trying to get away from being valgus. I don't know. I don't know what the actual kinesiology sort of term is there. And certainly with, if you're training a 45, 50-year-old person that doesn't understand anatomy, to say abduct and externally rotate your femurs, that doesn't work. And so I just say get bow-legged, right? Get your knees out.
Vegas knees.
Right. And so if our feet are closer together to each other, I can be more bow-legged than if my feet take a wider stance.
There's so much that's good about that.
Sure.
Getting bow-legged, get your femurs out of your way. So if you got a little belly or whatever, you can get down in the hole more comfortably. It lets us set up with a little bit lower hip. We always want to be, we don't want to drop our hips more than we need to, but if we can have a more upright torso, we sure do like that.
And I think it's less about even getting a lower hip and more about getting the hips closer to the barbell.
Well,
so there's less moments. So if you think about like where the barbell sits, horizontally, the hips move closer when we get quote unquote bow-legged. And
it's just easier to get down there like that. So
and then again, it uses more muscle mass. So it allows the abductors, the outside of your butt, your glute medius, glute minimus, and your external rotators. And there's 6 of those, all the weird ones, obturators and piriformis and all that stuff.
That's like that high gravity beer, right?
It's like high gravity beer. Yeah, that's right.
Spaten obturator.
Obturator, 8.4%.
So you can go see go look up some videos of KK, Konstantin Konstantinov.
Yeah.
And
or Matt Reynolds,
or Matt Reynolds,
or Brett.
Actually, Brett. It's easier to see in Brett's videos than almost anybody. It's just the way he's put together. You can really see what he's doing there. Yeah. Anyway, it's advantageous. That stance and that setup is advantageous.
Yep.
So we got our knees out. We've got our shins against the bar, not pushing the bar. They're just touching.
So that's 3 steps.
Kissed the bar.
That's right. Just barely touch the bar, head move the bar.
And without dropping your hips.
This is the hardest step.
So if you're in the gym with me and I'm teaching you the deadlift, at this point, I walk up and I shove my index finger into your hip joint and I say, without dropping your hips, we want them to pull their chest up really hard and get all the muscles in their back short, so that their back is tight and flat. We want the spine in extension. And people really struggle with that.
It's the hardest thing to teach in coaching. It's the hardest thing to teach in coaching in person, and it's really hard online.
Yeah.
There are lots of things.
It's hard on a podcast, too.
It's hard on a podcast, right? So I use almost the same terminology you do. I say squeeze the chest up rather than pull the chest up.
And I will often pat them on the back.
Which you can't do online, but firmly. In person you can, right? So
they can feel the muscles that I need them to contract.
I want to wrinkle the shirt.
I want to see those wrinkles.
So the shirt is taut on the back, and when you squeeze your chest up, the shirt will wrinkle on your back, right? It will make this kind of concave.
Yep.
Concave. And so, or, butthole to the wall. Mm-hmm. Nipples to the wall in front of you. So butthole to the wall, point your butthole at the wall behind you, point your nipples at the wall in front of you, and that'll get it. And you have to do all those things without dropping your butt, right? Everybody wants to drop your butt. So again, for those of you guys watching video, if this is your back, this is your head, it's very easy to squeeze your back up an extension if you drop your butt.
Yeah, almost everybody, when they're standing up straight, their spine's an extension.
That's right.
They bend over and then they lose extension.
The problem is if you drop your butt, your knees went forward. And if your knees went forward, your shins were already touching the bar. So if you drop your butt, your knees go forward, your shins go forward, the bar goes forward, the bar's not over the middle of the foot anymore. So instead, we have to hold our butt in place. We have to hold our hips in place and then squeeze our back chest up as hard as we can and get our back as tight as we can. And essentially, again, we use a term, we're going to lock our back in extension.
Yeah, you have to. So once you get your chest up, get that back nice and flat, you hold it like that the entire time.
That's right.
I tell people 95% of your mental and physical energy will be in
holding the back in extension. Agreed.
Almost everybody I've ever seen can leg press more than they can deadlift because the back extension is the weakest link in the deadlift. That's the piece that fails.
I agree.
They can push more than they can pick up.
Right.
So, for example, if a guy could put his back against the wall and put a 900-pound sled in front of him, he can probably push it with his feet, but he couldn't pick it up. His back would round. 95% of your mental and physical energy will be in holding that extension. As a secondary or afterthought, you push the floor away with your feet for step 5 and drag the bar up your shins.
Yep. So step 5 is to drag the bar up with your shins. And I want most of my people to think about a deadlift as being a push with my feet rather than a pull with my hands. Now, we talked about cues. There are times when they do it wrong, and so we will flip it around. But for the most part, if you get tight, if step 1, I take my stance 1 inch from the bar. Step 2, I bend over and I grab the bar, and my back's going to be rounded at that point. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with having a rounded back. Don't roll the bar. Don't take a step. Step 3, shins forward till they touch the bar and knees out into the arm. Step 4, squeeze the chest up. There's lots of little cues you can think about there, but squeeze the chest up without dropping your hips. And step 5, I'm going to drag the bar up my legs, but I'm going to do that by thinking about leg pressing the earth away from my body.
Right.
And so what I'm going to do when I squeeze my chest up, I'm going to also pull the slack out of the bar. The first thing I'll hear is the little kink, a ting of the bar hitting the inside of the sleeve, right, where the bushing is, right, or where the bearings are.
So the part of the bar you grab is just a piece of bar stock. It's been all straightened out and knurled and nice. And then that goes inside the collar, right? Because the collar, we have to put a collar on the bar so that the plates will spin, so that it won't twist out of your hand. So there's a little slack. It has to be, right? The hole the bar goes in and the collar has to be bigger than the bar. It won't go in there. So there's a little slack there. And the cheaper the bar is, the more the slack there is.
Sure.
So you pick it up and you can go click and you can feel that.
You hear it click.
And then you pick it up a little more, click. And now the collar moves up and touches the underside of the inside diameter of the hole in the plate.
That's right.
And then there's 5 plates on there and you go click, click, click. And you can feel all 5 of them go click, 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 click. And then you push. Yeah,
and if you really are in tune with this, which beginners won't be at all, but as you get stronger and stronger, I can feel the inside plate come off the ground.
Yeah.
And the outside plate still be on the ground. And so at that point, the bar has all of the flexes come out of the bar, right? The inside plates are off the ground. I've got as much tightness as I can possibly get. There's no potential for energy loss at all, for an energy leak. And then I just push real hard through the floor with my feet. And that initiates. And I want the knee extension, the knees going from bent to straight, to initiate the movement of the bar. Again, what a lot of people do, because their hamstrings aren't strong enough to hold their hip in place, is their knee will extend first, but the bar doesn't move.
That's right. If your knee extends first, well, think about it. If your knee extends first, it turns into a stiff leg deadlift.
To a straight leg deadlift. A straight leg deadlift, my legs are straighter. My back is more horizontal than it should be. My shoulders lurched forward, right? And everything is in a worse position. Now, here's the deal. It's actually easier, in my opinion, to get the bar off of the ground in a straight leg deadlift than it is in a correct deadlift.
No, wait a minute.
I know. Well, I have a theory as to why. Why do you think it is?
Well, the extensors of the hip are going to be stronger than the quads.
And the hips are going to be higher. Right. So their position,
so if you're
vertically compared to horizontally, goes up, and so they're in a little stronger position. That where that fulcrum height is. So it's turning you into a longer legged lifter. Well, a longer leg lifter can deadlift more. Except, so the bar goes off the ground 2 inches, and now what do? Well,
now it's just hanging out in space, and you're just
it's going to swing out away from your legs. It's probably not going to stay on your shins, and so now you're in trouble. So if you do this right, it should look like you get as tight as you can against the bar, and you leg press the earth away, and it looks like you're squeezing the bar off the floor. If we jerk the bar off the floor, we don't want to jerk the bar off the floor. We squeeze it off the floor. And then the second I feel the plates come off the ground, I'm going to go as fast as I can. Now, at 400 pounds for me, that's pretty fast. But at 650, it's all going to be slow. But I'm still going as fast as I can go.
You bet. Yeah, so if you jerk the bar off the floor, well, on a limited attempt, or even a close to limited attempt, you pull your chest up, you got your back nice and flat, you got your back tight. And if you press the bar off the floor and you squeeze it off, and you can feel that slack come out, and you feel those plates come off, you can hold your back in isometric contraction and keep your chest up.
Correct.
But if you get a run at it, drop your hips and then jerk it off the floor, it'll pull your back out of extension, and now you're rounded, and then you can't lock it out. You can get it over your knee, and then you just can't get your shoulders back.
Correct.
And you may be able to stand there all day.
That's right.
But you'll never get your shoulder behind the bar.
Yeah, if you're somebody who struggles to lock out your deadlift at the top of a deadlift,
chances are
rack pulls are not going to fix the thing. Chances are your back, your lumbar, your low back is not in good hard extension. Now, your thoracic back, your upper back, that's one of those things we've talked about, these kind of changes to competitive lifts, that some really good competitive lifters will actually allow their upper back some flexion because it cuts down on the range of motion.
Aforementioned Constantine.
Constantine is the best that's ever done that. And that's okay to do for a competitive lifter, but I want my lifters who I'm trying to get generally strong to understand and learn how to control this isometric contraction extension of not just the lumbar spine, but of the thoracic of the thoracic spine. And so we hold our back as flat as we can, and we pull it, and we don't let the back be an energy leak at all.
Yeah, and we push our feet because we don't pull. You know, when people pull the bar, they tend to round over.
Sure.
It tends to make them round over. But not more often than that, though, if they can keep their back in extension, it causes them to rock back, causes them to get their shoulder back, and then the bar comes off their shins.
Yep.
It's crazy that when you rock back, the bar comes off your shins.
Sure.
You wouldn't think it would, but it does.
Yep.
The shoulder joint is not very robust. It's a really crappy cage. Like
Sure.
the head of the humerus goes in a cage that has 3 points on it pretty much. And it's, I've never had a skeleton to play with that wasn't all wired together, but I bet if it wasn't wired together, the arm would just fall out of that cage. Like it's not a tight fit. It's just it's a loose cage.
Sure.
So we can have this range of motion. So all the tendons and ligaments and muscles and stuff hold it up there. So when you deadlift and you push away from the floor, that bar is actually, it's not hanging from that joint. We think that it's hanging from your lat insertion in
Sure.
your armpit.
Yep. And the lat's pulling back at that humerus at very nearly a 90-degree angle to the humerus. And so that's why if you watch people, for years, I remember reading, West Side and that group of guys, and they would visualize getting your shoulders behind the bar before you pulled.
Gosh, I just don't see how that would possibly even work as a cue. But
you know what I think they did? I think it was because I saw a lot of people with their shoulders lurch forward, just like we talked about. If your knees extend and your hips pop up and your shoulders lurch forward, and you turn your straight leg deadlift, and you're in trouble, right? That's right. And so I think that's what they were visualizing, but it's just wrong, right? It's just wrong. With every single heavy deadlift ever, you can pick any good, really no limit max attempt deadlift from the side. Every single deadlift on YouTube, the weight will not come off the ground. It will not break off the ground until the hips are high and the shoulders are forward of the bar. Now, Can the hips go too high and the shoulders go too forward? Yes, of course they can, right? There is too far. But if you think that you can't, you're supposed to lift with your legs, not with your back. You're supposed to sit your butt down. You're wrong. That's not right. We don't lift with our legs, not with our back. We lift with our back, high hips, bar over the middle of our foot, because physics says so, because the physics you can't get around. And so if I'm going to go pick up a lawnmower and put it in the back of my car, I'm going to get as close to that lawnmower as I can. I'm going to straddle that lawnmower. I'm going to keep my hips high. I'm going to bend over, grab that lawnmower right in the middle of the lawnmower, and my hands are going to be right over the middle of my foot, and I'm going to pick up that lawnmower with nearly straight legs, and pick it up and put it in the back of my car. But if I squat way down, to pick up the lawnmower is now 6 inches in front of my body, and that's an enormous amount. That's a moment force multiplier.
Right.
I have tons more moment to overcome in order to put the lawnmower in the back of my car, the back of my truck. And so we lift with our back, not with our legs. I hope you're enjoying this episode in the technique series of the Barbell Logic podcast. At Barbell Logic, we believe that barbell-based strength training is literally for everyone, and that the only thing holding most people back from all the incredible benefits that come from it is good technique and consistency, and we can help with that too. And whether you're just getting started or you've been lifting for a while, it's difficult to know if you're performing the lifts correctly or if there's anything you can do to make your lifting better. We have tons of free resources online, from basic how-to videos that'll get you lifting safely and efficiently right away, to podcasts, articles, and videos that will help you troubleshoot common errors. All you have to do is visit barbelllogic.com/technique to see our best technique-focused content in one place. And while you're at it, you can sign up for a consultation with a Barbell Logic coach. This is a free form check and a chance to ask an expert all your training-related questions. There's no reason you should be struggling to get started or to make progress. Check out barbelllogic.com/technique for more information and sign up for the Barbell Logic experience. Again, it's 100% free. There's nothing better for your training than knowing you're lifting safely, training efficiently, and on the right track. All right, let's get back to the show.
Yeah, so if you go look at the Ed Cohn, it's a sumo attempt, right? No, it's not an attempt.
No, it's not. It's not. It's conventional.
That's right. And it's got the gold plates. You'll see it.
So I believe it was. I think it's 901. I think it's his 901 deadlift on YouTube. So Ed Cohn, who's the greatest of all time powerlifter, and the guy used to sumo deadlift, and he switched in his later career. He had some sort of hamstring injury or something, or hip, and he ended up switching to conventional deadlifts and conventional deadlift. If you watch this video, I believe it's Ed Cohn 901, right? It's at the USPF Nationals, I think. Anyway, he sits way down, deep. He gets all the way down in basically what looks like a parallel squat. He's got short femurs, they're not very long, and so his shins aren't that far forward. He doesn't really push the bar forward to the midfoot.
The 901 is 901 is what it is, right? It is a sumo.
Oh, it is? Well, that's not the lift that we're talking about, though.
Well, no, it's not. Let's see here.
And so he sits way down. You really can watch any Ed Cohn conventional deadlift. He sits way down. His back gets very vertical. And it looks like he starts to pull that bar, and all the slack comes out of the bar, and his hip pops up, and his hip pops up, and his hip pops up, and his shoulders go forward, and his back gets more horizontal. And when his back gets exactly where it needs to be, so that it is in an optimal position to pull the weight off the ground, the weight comes off the ground. And hey, here's the deal. At 900 pounds, it's not coming off the ground in any other way. Now, can Ed Cohn do a 405 deadlift if the guy can deadlift 900 pounds? Can he do 405 deadlift with the bar out in front of his feet, just the middle of his foot a little bit, and his hips down low? Of course he can. So he practiced that way, and he practiced that way, and he practiced that way. And if you asked him, he said, Ed, how did you deadlift? He would say, well, I just squatted down and grabbed the bar and dropped my butt, and I squatted the weight up. Wrong. He didn't. His butt pops up, his back gets horizontal, his shoulders move forward, and he gets in the exact same position that everybody else on earth gets when the weight comes off the ground. So just watch it. Watch when the weight actually comes off the ground. Did you find the video?
It's 887.
887. What's the title of the video?
Ed Cohn 887 deadlift.
Okay. That's easy enough. I mean, and it doesn't even have to be a guy like Ed Cohn. Anybody who's actually pulling a max attempt, that's truly a max attempt. The bar has to be over the middle of the foot. By the way, this is the one where we don't have to think very much about bar path.
Yep.
A squat, you kind of have to think about bar path. There's so much that can go wrong. But a true max effort deadlift will move in a vertical, straight line over the middle of your foot, or it's not going to break off the ground.
Yeah, it's self-regulating. People worry about getting hurt. If it's too heavy, it's not going to come up.
That's
it's
right.
Fine.
And
It's
you just put it down.
self-regulating. It's easy to get started with it. I'm not going to say it's easy to perfect, but it's easy to get started with it. You know, I think most people leave their first session with a better deadlift than they do a squat, right? Mm-hmm. And the weight goes up. You know, so the deadlift gets ahead of the squat for the novice pretty darn early.
Yeah, pretty quick. And the longer legged you are, longer limbed you are, it will probably stay above the squat for a long time. Now, Tim Roberts yesterday squatted 651 and smoked it, right? Had 25 or 30 pounds left. That guy's going to be 700-pound squatter soon. And he deadlifted what? Just like right around
616.
Yeah. So he actually squats more, but he's a great big guy. He weighs over 300 pounds. He's not fat. He's just a big He's
giant man.
You know what? He's shaped. He reminded me of Joseph Pena when he walked in. Mm-hmm. So I mean, totally different guys. And he's, I don't know, how old is Tim?
34.
Yeah, so he's way older than Joseph is, but they're just built the same way. They're just thick and giant hips, big butt, a lot of anterior pelvic tilt in their butt. You just walk in and you go like, man, if God was creating a squatter, he was like, yep, make those guys. The reason we conventional deadlift is because conventional makes our back strong, which by the way is an important point here. The deadlift takes a lot of crap about the fact that, well, you know, you could potentially hurt your back. Well, sure, you could potentially hurt your back, certainly if you do it wrong, just like if you squat wrong and you hurt your knees. But for the most part, if you do it right, and if you do it close to right, and even if you do it kind of wrong.
Even if you do it kind of wrong. The worst thing you're going to do is tweak something, and you're going to get back spasms for a week, and they're going to go away, and you get back under the bar.
Think about all the people in the world who are like, I have a herniated disc in my back, right? Everybody's like, I've got a herniated disc. And you go, oh, did you do that deadlifting? Like, oh, no, I did it because I dropped my keys on the floor.
Right.
No, I did it picking my kid up off the floor. Well, they bend over in the back, they put their back in flexion at rounds, and they twist and they put it up, something up on a counter or something. So, or they just sleep on it wrong or something weird happens. And so it's rare from the deadlift. And so for me, if I can teach our clients and myself and my family and the people that I love to deadlift correctly and get their back strong, a strong back is a less vulnerable back to injury, not a more vulnerable back to injury. And so deadlift is really strong. Hey, one thing we didn't mention is a lockout. The deadlift is locked out. We walked you through the fifth step is to drag the bar up your legs, right? Well, how far do you drag the bar up your legs? Well, you drag the bar up your legs with totally straight elbows until your hips are in full extension and your knees are in full extension. Right? Your chest is up.
Right.
And so we don't shrug. We don't do anything with our shoulders. Our shoulders never lift up.
It's too heavy anyway.
Correct. We never bend our elbows. So elbows are straight, shoulders hang. And we basically, one of the cues I'll use for the chest, there's two cues. The clean cue is, the clean one, is I picture like a meat hook under my breastbone, and it lifts my breastbone up, and I just get like a proud chest.
That's why I tell people to squeeze their butt cheeks together and stand up proud, and that normally will get it.
By the way, the squeezing the butt cheeks together is a cue. It's not a thing we do to activate the glutes.
That's right.
We don't activate glutes on a deadlift. If you stood up with it, your glutes got activated, right?
If you can walk normally, you can activate your
Right. So if you have a real problem, like you've got nerve damage, you got spina bifida, then it's possible that your glutes aren't working correctly. So the glutes make the hips extend. That's what the glutes do.
Right.
Right. Your big giant gluteus maximus, the one that your grandma spanked, that's going to work, and you don't have to activate that. But it is a pretty good cue to kind of crack the walnut or squeeze your butt cheeks together. So you've got to stand up tall, hold it. And by the way, I like a deadlift. I think a deadlift should be held for a second or two at the top.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And so, if you're in training, hold that thing as long as you can. I mean,
especially for the last rep, you're doing a set of 5, just hold it for 5 or 6 seconds.
Stand there for an 8 count. I mean, who cares?
You'll know if you really locked it out, because right before you lock it out, like everything's hard, and you're grinding, and the bar is just over the middle of your foot, but you're not really in balance yet, because you're pulling not just up, but you're kind of pulling back to try to get in balance and get everything locked in compression, and there's no more moment. Right. So a split second before you lock your deadlift out, your segments are in moment. There's a little bit of moment on the shin. There's a little bit of moment on the femur, on the thigh, and there's a little bit of moment on the back. And the second all those come into line and they come into compression, once I lock out a deadlift, the heaviest deadlifts I've ever locked out, 725 deadlifts and even heavier in strongman when we had partial deadlifts, once it locks out, I can stand there all day.
You might even be able to talk.
You can talk, right? Yeah. Like if you remember Eddie Hall's, have you watched Eddie Hall's his first world record deadlift, where he deadlifted whatever he did, 1,050 or something.
That's the outdoor one.
So yeah, outdoor. And the female reporter comes running up to him. He holds the bar and does an interview.
Savagery.
And answers like 3 questions and then puts the bar down. This is like the heaviest deadlift ever pulled, right? At the time. And so, man, if you're one of those people at the top of your deadlift, your face is still squirming and squeezing, and you're like, and it's probably not actually locked out.
Right.
Get it locked out, hold it, enjoy it, and then put it down. And by the way, we put it down. We should talk about putting it down.
You bet.
We put it down so at the top of a deadlift, our hips and knees are both in extension. The thing we break at to put it down is the hips, not the knees. Keep the knees locked.
Yeah, squeeze those knees, push your rump straight back. Slide the bar down your legs.
You're essentially doing a really fast beginning of a RDL. You RDL it, the bar slides down your thighs, and as soon as the bar passes your knees, then you can bend your knees, right? But you don't bend your knees until it passes the knees. And then, by the way, the speed on the way down on a deadlift is very fast. Right. It ain't a controlled drop, but it's one step from a controlled drop. We keep and we never drop it, by the way. Don't drop it. Don't drop it, right? You hear me, Nick Hammer? Don't you drop your PR deadlifts.
Right.
Nick Hammer dropped a PR deadlift a couple weeks ago.
Did he lose his grip?
No, he just dropped it because he was just, he wants to be a CrossFitter.
Oh, I see.
He's a 240-pound powerlifter that deadlifts 700 pounds.
Unlock the hips.
Unlock the hips.
Tight knee. Rump back, slide the bar down your legs. When it gets past your knee, do a little squat and sit it down.
That's right. And it should all be real fast.
And it'll put it right back in the
right over the middle of your
position.
Foot.
And as long as you kept your back in extension, you can do another rep immediately.
That's exactly right. And so let's mention that, by the way. We work reps on deadlift almost always, right? So it's pretty rare that we're doing a max effort deadlift. So if we do a set of 5, lots of people can walk through this 5-step process. Stand up with the bar, put it down, and they almost always put it down in front of the middle of their foot. By the way, as much as I try, I often put it down in front of the middle of my foot, right? So this is not like, it's really, really common. So you put the bar down. Now the bar is like an inch in front of the middle of your foot. Now let's go back to the 5 steps. Okay. Step 1 was your stance. Well, I'm already in my stance. Step 2 is my grip. Well, I already have a grip on the bar, right? By the way, a deadlift starts from a dead stop every single rep. We don't ever touch and go a deadlift, right?
We don't dribble it.
We don't dribble it, right? We set it down, we breathe out, we breathe in, we squeeze our chest up, and we pull as long as the bar is over the middle of my foot.
Right.
If I put the bar down in front of the middle of my foot, what's the very first thing I have to do?
Got to roll it back.
I got to roll it back to the middle of my foot. So what I do, and you want to break, I want a pause between all 5 steps.
Yeah, you need to pause long enough to run your quick mental checklist. Is it the right spot? My knees out, my back flat. Okay, push.
That's exactly right. So step 1, I walk up, take my stance, make sure I'm 1 inch from the bar, toes are pointed out, 15, 20 degrees. We didn't mention that, but it's the same thing as squats. Basically, it's about the same angle. And stop. Bend over, grab the bar, don't roll the bar, stop. Shins forward to the bar, knees out, stop. Squeeze the chest up, squeeze the chest up, squeeze the chest up, set my back as hard an extension. It feels like my face is going to pop off. There's so much pressure. This is not a comfortable position to be in.
If it's comfortable, it's wrong.
Step 4, if it's comfortable, it's wrong. If it's comfortable, you drop your hips. If it's right, we're good. Stop. Drag the bar up the legs and do that by leg pressing the earth away. Stand up to the top. Lock it out. Stop. Break at the hips. Slide the bar down. Break at the knees. Put it on the ground. Now, bar's in front of the middle of my foot a little bit. Roll it back to the middle of my foot. Stop. Squeeze the chest up and go. By the way, we can talk about breathing too. So when does the breathing occur? Between what steps?
We breathe on the whole.
Yeah, so we breathe between step 3 and step 4 primarily. So I'm going to breathe between. So I'm going to set my shins forward till my shins touch the bar and knees out. And then I'm going to take a breath. And then I'm going to squeeze my chest up, which is why it makes me all like lightheaded and my face gets purple. And then I pull, right? If I try to breathe after I've squeezed my chest up, my lungs have been compressed a little bit and I can't get as much air in. Right. So I want to get as much air in as I can. So I get all the inner abdominal pressure and then I squeeze my chest up, stop, and then pull.
Yep.
And it works really well.
And we don't dribble this bar.
Ever.
One, because we want it to be a deadlift. It has to be pulled from a dead stop. You know, we almost all train on some sort of a rubber surface, you know, and there's a little bounce there and that helps it off the floor. We don't want the help.
Nope.
We don't know how strong we are if we dribbled it.
Yep.
But more importantly, I think, is when that bar bounces, it tends to let you pull the back out of extension.
Yep.
It makes you know, every time they bounce it, they get a little rounder, a little rounder, a little rounder. By the 5th rep, they're just hunched over like a dog, man.
Yep. I love people who have really dedicated themselves to being a form technician on deadlift. They're the funnest to watch because the funnest word?
The most funnerest.
Because you can watch them hit all 5 of those positions.
Yep.
Every single rep. Even if they put it down, something goes a little bit wrong. And most of those guys and females who are form technician put it down right over the middle of their foot. But they'll check it, they put it down, maybe it's a 1/4 inch forward, roll it back. So the problem is if you put it down slightly in front of the middle of your foot and you think, okay, step 3, shins forward. Now my shins are too far forward because the bar's not in the right spot. And then you put it down a little more forward on rep number 3, and then you put it down a little more forward on rep number 4. And the next thing you know, the bar's over your toes, you're squatting way down because you've got to squat all the way down to get your shins to touch the barbell. So you've got to make sure that the barbell on subsequent reps gets rolled back over to the middle of your foot.
What? Subsequent?
Subsequent. Is this like hypertrophy and hypertrophy?
Subsequent.
Oh, I call it subsequent. Are you psychoanalyzing?
I don't know. It says a lot about a man.
Says the guy that says hypertrophy.
That's right.
So one of these days, I'm going to go to BJ's Trophy Shop in Springfield, Missouri, and I'm going to
get me a hypertrophy.
I'm going to have them build you a hypertrophy.
Well, listen, things can have a hypertrophic effect. Mm-hmm. Do they have hypertrophic effects?
I don't know. Subsequential.
Subsequential. I don't know either.
So do you want to talk programming real quick?
Yeah.
Wrap this up?
Yeah. So all the main lifts in linear progression we do for 3 sets of 5. For the power clean, we do for 5 sets of 3. This one is different. It's so awful, or it's awfully good, so we only do 5 of them. We do one set of 5.
Correct.
It's just so darn stressful. And it's the end of the session. You're petered out. You know? So we do 1 set of 5.
I heard that about you. You get petered out a lot.
I do.
Yeah.
Right now. And we often take much, much larger jumps in weight in the beginning of LP on the deadlift. Sure. So a young man, the prototypical, novice, he's probably going to take some 10-pound jumps on his squat. He might take some 20-pound jumps for a short time on the deadlift. It's not uncommon.
A week to five workouts, maybe somewhere in there.
Yep.
And we deadlift in the beginning every single session.
Yep.
Also 3 times a week, 1 set of 5. Jumping some weight every single time. And then within a couple weeks, you're jumping 5 pounds at a time. But, so if somebody starts at 135, you might go 135, 155, 175. And then the next week, you might go 185, 195, 205. Well, now in 2 weeks, I've gone from 135 to 205, right? And then I might go 210, 215, 225 or whatever.
You've probably had them. You've probably had the under 25, underweight male that's drinking the milk and eating the calories go up 120 pounds in 6 weeks.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'm sorry, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks. 20, do it 6 times in a row.
Yeah, 6 times in a row. It's probably that's happened for sure. Now, a lot of that's because obviously that a 135 for a set of 5 wasn't a limit lift on day one.
Well, I've had them sort
but
of
their form was jacked up enough that we had to make sure they could actually, younger guys tend to have in my experience, younger males have the hardest time setting their back in extension. And so, middle-aged guys actually tend to do a little better than younger guys, and women have no problem setting their back in extension. And so, we might be able to jump a little faster than normal with those guys. And then what do we do? After it stops working, and so the deadlift is just a very stressful lift.
Yep.
We've heard this for years, by the way, and I don't know if we can dictate exactly why that is. I remember
so stressful.
I remember
the absolute weight's going to be higher than anything
else.
It is.
But the problem is, so think about this. So again, if you talk about tonnage, your tonnage of one set of 5 is far less than your tonnage on 3 sets of 5 on squats, even if the squats is 15% less.
You've already squatted.
Right.
You're already squatted.
That's true. You're tired.
And, the squat's on your back. You're not having to hold it in your darn hands. Your biceps aren't, trying to tear off the bone. It's the systemic stress in the deadlift, I think, is higher.
Yeah. I actually think you can find some studies on PubMed. I did this, recently, like in 1998 or 1999. Somewhere in there in the early 2000s or somewhere, we did some studies, and there were some published reports, which again, take that all with a grain of salt. God knows they're probably terrible. But that heavy weight in your hand was harder to recover from than really anything else. So super, super, super heavy weights. You think about,
I don't doubt that.
You think about strongmen doing like farmers walks with 400 pounds per hand, running down the street. Like, I don't know if you can do anything that's really harder on your body than that. And so we do 1 set of 5, 3 days a week. If you're young.
Now we're getting ahead. So we did 20-pound jumps for a while.
Okay.
Maybe we only do them for 1 session or 2.
Sure.
Maybe we do them for longer. If you get a hoss in front of you, some talented person, then we'll go very quickly to a 10-pound jump, and then we'll go very quickly maybe to a 5-pound jump. So nothing can sustain those larger jumps as long as the deadlift.
That's correct.
And then unless they're a very elderly person, I don't think I've ever taken anybody under 60 to 2.5-pound jumps on the deadlift.
Yeah, it's pretty rare. That's pretty rare.
They would have to have. They'd have to have some problems.
Yeah, if they're
they'd be compromised.
Older
in some way.
female, just like you said, over 60, you're 70 years old, and so, certainly I do it with Sybil, but with most people I don't.
Yeah, so we're going to take those jumps, be pretty aggressive with the jumps when we can, as long as they can keep the back of extension. We're going to keep piling the weight on, and then we're going to get down to the 5-pound jumps, and maybe 6-8 weeks, maybe a little more into it. 3 times a week is going to be too darn much. For a couple of reasons. Their squat got real heavy.
Sure.
And then the deadlift got real heavy too.
Yeah,
so it's just a lot of volume.
Day. Sure.
And we have an A and a B workout. They have you drop it on one of those workouts.
Our demographic continues to skew a little older. And so most of our people don't power clean. And so we need a replacement for the deadlift. It's not a power clean. And so I tend to drop the Wednesday deadlift out and replace it with a barbell row.
Yeah.
Those tend to work pretty well. And, of course, we'll chin. We love to chin. And I think the chins probably contribute some. Yeah. And I put chin days depending on how young they are and their ability to chin. Sometimes I have them chin on all 3 days. And sometimes I have them chin on the barbell row day.
Yep. That's what
so they end up barbell rowing and chinning on Wednesday. And then I keep their deadlifts at 2 times a week. And then when that stops working, then usually what I'll do is I actually increase their volume a little bit on their deadlift on Monday and decrease their volume on Friday. So I might drop them to a top set of 3 on Friday and maybe 2 sets of 5 on Monday.
2 5s. Yeah.
And I reduce the weight, 10% or 12% to start to give them a little bit of a deload there, then let them start working back up. And then we do that till it doesn't work. And then I might actually go to a 3rd set of 5.
So, a couple things about chins. We'll go back to chins here, and then we'll talk about this Monday, Friday programming from the deadlift. The chins, I find that, these older ladies, Charity and I have found that they benefit from the supinated lat pull down or assisted deadlifts so much because they have a really hard time keeping the bar on their shins. Mm-hmm. So they can keep their shin angle correct, keep their hip in the right spot, and the bar still will come off their shins. Their lats just aren't strong enough.
Yep.
So we find that those older ladies in particular need to start doing lat pull downs pretty early.
I do it every session with them.
Yeah,
every session I do it. Yeah. It's like Sybil, every session.
As heavy as they can go.
That's right. She does her squats, she does her presses, she does her deadlifts, and then as soon as she's done with deadlifts, she's going to do a supinated lat pull down every single workout, 3 workouts a week, every single time.
Yeah, before the frequency gets them, the bar will swing out, and they've got to start doing those lat pull downs. So I love that for those older folks, and
me too.
And Charity loves that. And then you say that you'll increase some volume on Monday and then decrease it on Friday, you know. And so as part of that minimum effective dose idea, I've actually been introduced a heavy then back offs first. So what I've been doing is
both days, Monday
on both days.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe a guy peters out at 315 for set of 5, or maybe he only triples it, you know, and we're like, that's over. Then let's say he does it on Friday. So Monday I'll have him pull a single at 320, and then I'll have it back off at like maybe 5%. Doesn't take much, and then he can get it. He can make it through his work, and then do the same on Friday. So now he's going to do 325 in a back offset. Then that doesn't work. And then I'll have the heavy and a back offset on Monday, and then only what would be the back offset on Friday.
Right.
And then I'll take a rep off of that. And so, you know, we just continue to massage that.
Yeah.
But as long as
one step at a time.
Yep. I just want to keep that weight piling on the bar. The squat teaches us a lot about ourselves, but so does the deadlift.
Sure.
You know, the deadlift was the first one I blacked out on. Yep. A lot of people pass out with the press, but I black out on the deadlift the first time.
By the way, we talk a lot about the grinding, the 5 seconds of grind. That applies more on a deadlift than anything else.
Yeah. And listen, it's not about a grind.
No.
It's not about we want people, our trainees to do, you know, max effort on every session.
No, of course
it's that
not.
it takes a while for the trainee to learn how long it takes to deadlift.
Sure.
You know, if it weighs double body weight, it takes a little time to come off the floor. You got to be patient with yourself and patient with your body and patient with the whip and the bar, and stay with it so it comes off the ground. You can do a set and leave a couple in the tank, and it's still slow. So we don't want them to grind themselves to powder. We want them to learn to stay with it, to be persistent, and to be tough.
Yeah, what you'll
to be
see
anti-fragile.
Yeah, we've said this before. You'll see people pull for 2 seconds. The bar doesn't break off the ground. They just stop and give up. And look, you didn't pull long enough, right? And then had they pulled one more second, the bar would have broke off the ground, and it would have gone up smooth. It wouldn't have even been a grind. And then we've seen people, as they get a little further, the next step is it comes off the ground, and then the place where a deadlift tends, if you hold form really well, it's going to grind the most or slow down the most at about your tibial bump. So, you know, 3-4 inches below your knee, and you can't get to that point, let it slow way down and go, I'm not going to get it, and set it down. You've got it. But what you'll notice is you'll grind through that little spot a little bit. And once it gets above your patella, it just slides back up really quick. Now, again, if you're locking it out really slow, start videoing yourself from the side, I bet your low back especially is actually not in hard extension.
Yeah, so I did rack pulls for you
a few days ago.
I don't know, whatever it was, late last week. How long did it take it to come off the pins?
Probably 4 seconds before it
1, 2, 3, 4. The whole time I'm purple.
Yep. And then it broke off the ground, and then we fine.
Yeah, right. And so we want people to learn how to do that. It's not about max effort work every day and grinding yourself to power. It's about learning that.
Yep.
The deadlift is the first place where we can learn that. It takes a lot of experience to start learning to grind and push persistently on the squat. You can learn it on the deadlift first.
Sure, that's
and then
right.
you can apply those lessons to the press, the bench press, and the squat.
Yeah, although you get down there in the bottom of a squat, especially it's a little scarier to, not a little, it's a lot scarier to bail on a squat. So I'll tell you this, for me, as I come back from injury or business or whatever, just being a lazy turd, and I start to really lift again, when I get to a heavy squat in the bottom, man, I don't miss very many squats because it's scary to miss squats. Now, I think you need to know.
I do it all the time.
I know you do. So,
listen, don't bail.
No, don't bail. You never bail. But
take a knee. If
but
you've
I
got to
also
put it
think
down.
most people, like you can teach yourself to bail. Most people, you get down there under that heavy weight, most people end up grinding it back up. You know, they're like, I don't want to put this down. It's on me.
Right.
And so they have a tendency, and it's more ingrained into their instincts to grind against a squat. On a deadlift, it starts to grind, and you're just like, just set it down. Right. Now, I've noticed even for me, as I get my deadlift back up each time, and I get it up, say, just over 600 pounds. So again, I'm just over 700 pound deadlifter of all time. 725. I get to about 600. It starts getting real heavy. I'll pull 635, and you don't start to grind, and I'll put it down.
Yeah.
So I want to be clear that this is not something that I just yell at people at. This is something I've experienced many times. It was about 6 months ago when we were in Tulsa. We were doing a thing with Brett McKay, and I think I pulled 650 or 655, and it was moving just fine, and it got just below my knees, and I thought I was going to miss it. And I set it back down. And he said, "What happened? Did you hurt yourself?"
Yeah,
you thought I'd injured myself.
Yeah, I thought you pulled a hamstring.
I said, "No, I missed it." And he said, "Dude, it was still going up." And I was like, "Dang it, show me the video." And then sure enough, it just slowed down. And so you really have to teach yourself to learn how to get through those places where it's really, really hard. That's why it teaches us about ourselves.
Yeah, I love the deadlift.
Yeah, it's awesome. Good.
What else do we have to say about that damn thing?
I'm out. It's been a long episode.
It has been. So, thanks for listening to us talk about the deadlift ad nauseum. Go to iTunes, give us a 5-star review. Go to, and go and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Encourage your friends to do that.
YouTube also.
Yep. Subscribe.
Barbell Logic, YouTube. Love subscribers.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
And more and more there every day.
But thanks for listening. We'll talk to you soon.